Hello my friends, and welcome back to KrossUSA channel. From massive logs to perfectly split firewood, watch as cutting-edge processors and time-tested methods transform raw timber into winter warmth. 9 incredible machines, centuries of woodworking tradition, all in one place. Let's get started. There's something deeply satisfying about watching raw timber transform into perfectly stacked firewood, ready to warm homes through harsh winter nights. Today we're visiting Scandinavian in Sweden, where they've engineered the Kubik 2 Vedfabrik, a complete firewood production system that represents decades of Nordic heating wisdom. NTHE Kubik 2 isn't just one machine, it's an integrated production line that handles everything from raw logs to neatly packaged firewood bundles. The process begins at the infeed station, where logs up to 16 inches in diameter are loaded onto a hydraulic conveyor system. This automatic feeding mechanism maintains consistent production flow without constant operator intervention, a crucial feature that old-time woodcutters would have dreamed of during long winter preparation seasons. As logs move through the system, they first encounter the primary splitting station. Here, a powerful hydraulic ram drives logs against a multi-wedge splitting head, capable of generating over 25 tons of force. The wedge configuration splits each log into 4, 6, or 8 pieces depending on diameter, mimicking the natural grain patterns that our grandfathers knew by heart when wielding their splitting mauls. What makes this system remarkable is the automatic transfer mechanism that catches split pieces and routes them to the crosscut saw station. This circular saw, running at precise RPM, cuts the splits into uniform lengths, typically 13 to 16 inches, the ideal size for most residential wood stoves and fireplaces. The Swedish engineers understood that consistent sizing isn't just about aesthetics. It's about optimal combustion efficiency and easier stacking. NTHE final stage involves an automated bundling system that wraps predetermined quantities of split wood into neat packages, ready for retail sale or home delivery. This complete automation transformed what was once backbreaking manual labor into an efficient operation that can process several cords per hour while maintaining the quality that heating with wood demands. The Maho Slicer Dicer Series 800-4 represents a fascinating evolution in firewood processing technology, combining the precision of commercial lumber operations with the practical demands of cordwood production. This New Zealand-designed machine tackles one of the oldest challenges in firewood preparation: how to efficiently process large-diameter logs that are too big for standard splitters. And at the heart of this machine lies an impressive 800mm wide cutting blade. That's over 31 inches of hardened steel designed to slice through timber like a deli slicer handles roasts. But here's where it gets interesting. Following that primary blade are 4 smaller cutting blades, each precisely positioned to subdivide those initial slabs into firewood-sized pieces in a single pass. This innovative approach harkens back to the old sawmill operations many of us remember from decades past, but reimagined for the firewood industry. NTHE operational sequence is elegantly simple yet highly effective. Large logs, often salvaged hardwoods or oversized rounds that would challenge conventional splitters, are positioned on the machine's hydraulic deck. As the operator engages the system, powerful hydraulic cylinders push the log forward through the primary 800mm blade. This blade doesn't split wood in the traditional sense. It actually saws through it, creating smooth, flat surfaces on each slab. Here's where the engineering brilliance shines. Immediately behind that main blade, the 4 secondary blades are arranged to slice each slab into multiple pieces simultaneously. Think of it like cutting a loaf of bread, but with the power to handle green oak or maple. The spacing between these blades can typically be adjusted to produce different size splits, accommodating everything from kindling to standard firewood dimensions. This slicing approach offers distinct advantages over traditional splitting, especially with knotty or twisted grain wood that can jam conventional splitters. Woods that our fathers might have set aside as too ornery to split process smoothly through the slicer dicer because sawing doesn't rely on following grain patterns. The machine's hydraulic system generates tremendous force, easily pushing recalcitrant logs through the blade array without the stalling or jamming that plagued earlier designs. NTHE resulting firewood pieces feature those clean sawn faces that stack exceptionally well and season predictably. Commercial firewood operations particularly value this consistency, as it allows for precise volume calculations and professional presentation. The machine can process logs up to its maximum diameter capacity, typically around 24 inches, transforming what would be an afternoon's worth of manual splitting into minutes of automated production. For anyone who spent autumn weekends preparing winter wood supplies, watching this machine work is both impressive and slightly nostalgic for simpler times. The JBM Super 80 brings Scandinavian engineering precision to firewood production with features that would make any professional timber worker appreciate modern innovation. This machine's standout feature is its hydraulic adjustable 24-tooth splitting wedge, a configuration that tackles even the most challenging logs with methodical efficiency, and a hydraulic arm that picks up logs and positions them onto the splitting deck, eliminating the heavy lifting that once made firewood preparation so physically demanding. And once positioned, logs advance through a log passage system toward that impressive 24-tooth wedge. This multi-tooth design creates numerous splits simultaneously, breaking down large rounds into firewood-sized pieces in one powerful stroke. And after splitting, pieces move to an integrated crosscut saw that trims them to consistent lengths. Posch Leibniz in Austria has been perfecting firewood processing equipment since 1976, and their Spaltfix K650 Vario represents nearly half a century of accumulated wisdom about what works in real-world wood processing. This mobile processor specifically addresses a challenge that anyone who's heated with wood understands intimately, dealing with those massive logs that are simply too large for conventional equipment. NTHE K650 Vario's ability to handle logs up to 65 centimeters in diameter, that's over 25 inches, opens up timber resources that previous generations might have left in the forest or relegated to commercial sawmills. We're talking about the base sections of mature hardwoods, the kind of dense, high BTU timber that burns long and hot through those coldest January nights. This capacity matters because these large diameter sections often represent the best heating wood, old growth density that our grandfathers valued above all else. NTHE machine's mobility is its first crucial feature. Mounted on a roadworthy trailer, it brings processing capability directly to where timber is felled, eliminating the transportation challenges of moving massive, unsplit rounds. This echoes the tradition of portable sawmills that once traveled from farm to farm, bringing industrial capability to rural operations. NTHE processing sequence begins with a robust log deck that hydraulically positions even heavy logs for splitting. The heart of the system is a powerful hydraulic splitting mechanism that drives logs against a multi-wedge configuration. What sets Posch apart is their Vario technology, adjustable wedge positioning that optimizes splitting patterns based on log diameter and wood species. Operators can configure the system for anywhere from 2-way splits for smaller logs up to 12-way splits for those massive rounds. NTHE splitting force generated by this machine is substantial, easily exceeding 30 tons of hydraulic pressure. This isn't just brute force, it's carefully applied pressure that follows wood grain patterns, working with the timber's natural structure rather than fighting it. Anyone who split cordwood by hand understands how some pieces yield easily while others resist stubbornly. The K650's pressure and wedge design overcome even the most difficult grain patterns. And after splitting, pieces are automatically conveyed to an integrated crosscut saw station. This circular saw, powered by the machine's diesel or electric motor depending on configuration, cuts splits to precise lengths. Most operators set this for the standard 13 to 16-inch firewood length, though adjustment is simple. The saw's power and blade size handle the full width of split pieces without hesitation, creating clean cuts that stack well and season properly. NTHE, resulting firewood drops onto a discharge conveyor that can direct pieces into waiting trucks, trailers, or storage areas. This automation transforms what might be days of manual labor into hours of efficient production. The K650 Vario processes several cords per hour when properly fed, a production rate that commercial firewood operations depend on for profitability, while homeowners appreciate for its time-saving efficiency. For those of us who remember the back-breaking work of processing winter wood supplies by hand, machines like this represent both progress and a touch of nostalgia for simpler times when heating with wood connected us directly to the forests around us. The Remet Woodpecker RP300 represents something we rarely saw even a generation ago: genuine CNC automation applied to firewood production. This Polish-engineered machine brings computer precision to an ancient heating tradition, and the results are fascinating to watch. NTHERP300 uses programmed sequences to automatically measure, position, split, and cut logs, with minimal operator intervention. You program the desired firewood length and piece size, then watch as the machine executes those instructions repeatedly with mechanical consistency. NTHE process begins with automatic log feeding from an integrated storage deck. Sensors measure each log's diameter, and the computer adjusts splitting parameters accordingly. The hydraulic splitting mechanism then drives logs against an optimized wedge configuration, creating uniform splits. What's remarkable is the machine's ability to recognize and adapt to different log sizes without manual adjustment, something that would have seemed like science fiction to woodcutters just 30 years ago. And after splitting, the integrated saw cuts pieces to programmed lengths with millimeter precision. The entire cycle happens automatically, with the machine processing log after log, while the operator simply maintains the wood supply. This level of automation allows small commercial operations to achieve production volumes that once required multiple workers and machines. There's a rich American tradition of homemade equipment designed to solve practical problems, and this custom-built two-way log splitter represents that innovative spirit perfectly. While commercial machines dominate the market today, owner-built splitters like this one carry forward a legacy of farm shop engineering that built this country. NTHE frame construction uses heavy steel channel and plate, likely salvaged or purchased as common stock from local suppliers. This robust foundation handles the substantial forces involved in splitting without flexing or fatigue, a crucial consideration that separates successful homemade equipment from dangerous failures. The builder clearly understood that adequate structural strength isn't optional when hydraulic cylinders are generating 15 to 20 tons of force. NTHE hydraulic system appears to use a standard engine-driven pump, probably salvaged from agricultural equipment or purchased as a basic unit. The cylinder extends horizontally, driving a pushing plate that forces logs against a fixed two-way wedge at the far end. This horizontal configuration is safer and more efficient than vertical splitters, keeping operators at a comfortable working height while gravity assists with log positioning. NTHE two-way wedge is crucial to the design. Rather than simply pushing logs against a single blade, which requires enormous force and often stalls, the wedge splits each log into two pieces by redirecting hydraulic pressure along natural grain lines. The wedge angle appears carefully chosen. Too sharp and it binds, too blunt and it requires excessive force. This builder clearly tested and refined the geometry through actual use. NTHE splitting cycle is straightforward. Position a log against the wedge, engage the hydraulic control, watch as the ram drives the log through, then reverse the cylinder to return for the next piece. An experienced operator can maintain steady rhythm, processing a substantial pile in an afternoon. The split pieces fall to either side of the wedge, keeping the work area clear and allowing efficient handling. What makes homemade splitters like this noteworthy isn't just functionality, it's the problem-solving they represent. This builder identified a need, understood basic mechanical and hydraulic principles, sourced available materials, and fabricated a working solution. This same practical ingenuity powered American agriculture and homesteading for generations. Loeffler Naderstammhaus GmbH in Germany has built their reputation on natural log home construction, where understanding wood isn't just technical knowledge, it's a craft passed down through generations. Their use of the Posch Spaltfix K400 for firewood production reflects that same commitment to quality and efficiency that characterizes German engineering tradition. NTHE K400 represents Posch's mid-range processor, designed for serious production without the industrial scale of their largest models. NTHE machine's processing sequence demonstrates the engineering refinement Posch is known for. Logs are positioned on the splitting deck using a hydraulic loading arm, a feature that eliminates the heavy lifting that once made firewood processing so physically demanding. The loader's reach and capacity handle logs up to the K400's maximum diameter of roughly 16 inches, the practical size range for most firewood operations. Once positioned, the hydraulic ram drives logs toward a fixed multi-wedge splitting head. The K400 typically uses a 6-way splitting configuration, meaning each log is divided into 6 pieces in a single stroke. NTHE hydraulic pressure generated is substantial but precisely controlled. Modern systems like this use proportional valves that ramp pressure smoothly rather than shocking the wood with sudden force. This controlled application actually improves splitting efficiency, especially with difficult grain patterns or knotty sections. After splitting, pieces automatically transfer to the integrated crosscut saw. This circular saw, running at high RPM with a carbide-tipped blade, cuts the splits to programmed lengths. NNTHE finished firewood drops onto a discharge conveyor that directs pieces into waiting containers or storage areas. Loeffler processes this firewood primarily for their own facility heating needs. Those natural log construction workshops require substantial winter warmth, but they also supply local customers who appreciate quality cordwood properly processed and seasoned. The Wood Warrior DL18-20 represents American engineering applied to firewood processing with an emphasis on power and productivity. That 48 horsepower Kubota diesel engine tells you immediately that this machine means business. We're talking about serious production capability designed for commercial operations or large-scale homestead wood processing. Kubota engines have earned their reputation for reliability in agricultural and industrial applications over decades. That 48 horsepower rating provides ample power to drive both the hydraulic system and the crosscut saw simultaneously without bogging down, even when processing dense hardwoods like oak or hickory. NTHE processing sequence on the Wood Warrior flows logically from loading through splitting to cutting and discharge. The hydraulic log loader positions rounds on the splitting deck, and the operator controls the cycle with intuitive lever or joystick controls. The splitting mechanism drives logs against a multi-wedge head, typically configured for 4 to 6-way splitting depending on log diameter. What sets machines like this apart is cycle time, the speed from starting one log to completing it and beginning the next. With that Kubota diesel providing consistent power, the hydraulic system maintains pressure throughout the cycle without the power drops that slow lesser machines. NTHE integrated crosscut saw on the DL18-20 handles the full width of split pieces with a large diameter blade powered directly from the diesel engine. This saw cuts cleanly through hardwoods at consistent lengths, typically 13 to 16 inches, producing firewood that stacks well and fits standard wood stoves. This custom-built firewood processor represents the pinnacle of owner-fabricated equipment, combining serious power with innovative design. The heart of this machine is a steel 92cc chainsaw with a 36-inch bar. That's professional-grade cutting power, typically found in commercial logging operations, now cleverly integrated into an automated processing system. N-Steel's 92cc displacement puts this saw in their heavy-duty professional category, designed originally for felling large timber and bucking substantial logs. These saws generate impressive torque at the chain, easily pulling that long, 36-inch bar through dense hardwoods without lugging down. The builder's decision to use professional-grade cutting power rather than compromise with smaller equipment shows real understanding of what's needed for reliable production. NTHE hydraulic system specifications reveal equally serious engineering: an 80-liter per minute pump and a 140mm diameter cylinder. For context, that cylinder diameter is over 5.5 inches, capable of generating tremendous force when supplied by that high-volume pump. This isn't salvaged agricultural equipment. These are purpose-selected components sized to match the demanding work of processing firewood continuously. NTHE operational principle appears to be a chainsaw-based cross-cutting station, combined with hydraulic log handling and positioning. This steel saw is mounted in a fixed position, likely on a pivoting arm or sliding carriage, that allows it to cut through logs positioned by the hydraulic system. That 36-inch bar length accommodates logs up to about 30 inches in diameter, substantially larger than most commercial firewood processors handle. NTHE hydraulic cylinder's job is positioning and holding logs firmly during cutting, and possibly splitting operations if the machine incorporates a wedge system. That 140mm diameter provides the clamping force necessary to secure heavy, awkward logs while the chainsaw does its work. The 80-liter per minute pump ensures the hydraulic operations happen quickly. Nobody wants to wait 10 seconds between cuts when processing cords of firewood.